You yearn for love. You love your work and live on it, and your work lives on my knowledge and that of others. Love, work, and knowledge know no fatherlands, no customs barriers, no uniforms. But you want to be a little patriot because you're afraid of true love, afraid of taking responsibility for your own work, and mortally afraid of knowledge. That is why you can only spoon up the love, work, and knowledge of others and can never create. That is why you steal your happiness like a thief in the night, why the sight of true happiness turns you green with envy. Stop, thief, he's a foreigner, an immigrant, whereas I'm a German, an American, a Dane, a Norwegian. Stop foaming at the mouth, little man. You are and always will be an immigrant and an emigrant. You immigrated into this world by pure accident and will emigrate from it without fanfare. You screech because you're afraid, mortally afraid. You feel that your body is growing rigid and gradually drying up. That's why you're afraid, why you call for your police. But even your police have no power over the truth. Even your policeman comes to me with his troubles. His wife's in bad shape, his children are sick. His uniform and revolver hide that what's human in him, but he can't hide it from me. I've seen your policeman naked. Is he registered with the police? Are his papers in order? Has he paid his taxes? Investigate him. The honour and security of the nation's at stake. Yes, little man, I've always been properly registered. I've always paid my taxes. It's not the honour and security of the nation that you're worried about. You're scared to death that I might show you to the world as I've seen you in my consultation room. That's why you're trying so hard to have me jailed for sedition. I know you, little man. If you happen to be a district attorney, your aim in life is not to uphold justice. No, you're after a sensational case that will get you a promotion. That's what all little district attorneys are after. Your treatment of Socrates was the case in point, but you never learned from history. You murdered Socrates, and that's why you're still in the muck. That's right, you murdered Socrates, and to this day you don't know it. You accused him of undermining your morality. He's still undermining it, you poor little man. You murdered his body, but not his spirit, and you're still committing murder in the name of law and order. But you do it in a cowardly, underhanded way. You don't dare look me in the eye when you accuse me of immorality, because you know which of us two is immoral, prurient, and obscene. Somebody once said that among all his many friends, he could think of only one who had never told a dirty joke. He was referring to me. Little man, whether you're a district attorney, a judge, or a chief of police, I know your dirty jokes, and I know where they come from, so I'd advise you to keep it quiet. In a pinch you might succeed in proving that my last tax payment was $100 too short, or that I've crossed the state line with a woman, or that I've spoken kindly to a child. It's on your lips, not mine, that such statements come to sound ugly and obscene, because of what your low, petty-fogging mind reads into them. And because you can't behave in any other way, you think I'm like you. No, little man, I'm not like you in these things, and never was. It makes no difference whether you believe me or not. To be sure, you have a revolver, and I have knowledge, each man to his trade. Let me tell you, little man, how you ruin your own life. In 1924 I proposed a scientific study of the human character. You were enthusiastic. In 1928 our work began to show results. You called me an outstanding thinker. In 1933 your publishing house was on the point of bringing out my findings in book form. Hitler had just come to power. I was teaching you to understand that Hitler became powerful because your character is armoured. You refused to publish my book, in which I showed you how and no one else had produced Hitler. How you and no one else had produced Hitler. Nevertheless, my book appeared and you were enthusiastic, but you killed it with silence because your president banned it. He had also advised mothers to repress the genital excitations of infants by having them hold their breath. For 12 years you were silenced about my book despite your enthusiasm. In 1945 it was republished. You hailed it as a classic. You are still enthusiastic about it today. 22 years, 22 long, eventful, anguished years have passed since I began to teach you what matters is not individual therapy, but the prevention of psychic disorders. And again you're behaving as you behaved for thousands of years. For 22 long, fearful years I taught you that people succumb to madness of one kind or another, or live in misery of one kind or another, because they become rigid in body and soul, and because they are capable neither of enjoying love nor of giving it, because their bodies cannot, like those of all other animals, convulse in the act of love. 22 years later, after I first told you, you tell your friends that the essential is not the cure but the prevention of psychic disorders. But you go on behaving as you behave for thousands of years. You state the great aim without mentioning how it's to be attained. You don't mention the love life of the masses. You want to prevent psychic disorders. That much it's permissible to say, without going into the disaster of people's sexual lives. That is forbidden. As a physician, you're still up to your neck in the swamp. What would you think of an engineer who expounded the art of flying without revealing the secrets of the engine and propeller? That's what you do, you engineer of the human soul. Just that. You're a coward. You want the raisins out of my cake, but you don't want the thorns in my roses. Haven't you too, little psychiatrist, been cracking silly jokes about me? Haven't you ridiculed me as the prophet of bigger and better orgasms? Have you never heard the whimpering of a young wife whose body has been desecrated by an impotent husband? Or the anguished cry of an adolescent bursting with unfulfilled love? Does your security still mean more to you than your patient? How long will you go on valuing your respectability above your medical mission? How long will you refuse to see that your pussyfooting procrastination is costing millions their lives? You put security before truth. When you hear about my organ, you don't ask, what can it do to cure the sick? No, you ask, is he licensed to practice medicine in the state of Maine? Don't you realize that though you and your wretched licenses can obstruct my work a little, you can't stop it? That I have a worldwide reputation as the discoverer of your emotional plague and the investigator of your life energy, that no one is entitled to examine me unless he knows more than I do. You fritter away your freedom. No one has ever asked you, little man, why you haven't been more successful in winning freedom, or if you have won it, why you've quickly lost it to a new master. Did you hear that? He has the gall to cast doubt on democracy and the revolutionary upsurge of the workers of the world. Down with the revolutionary, down with the counter-revolutionary, down. Take it easy, little Führer of all Democrats and of the world proletariat. I am convinced that your real prospects of attaining freedom depend more on the answer to that one question than on 10,000 resolutions of your party congresses. Down with him. He has insulted the nation and the vanguard of the revolutionary proletariat. Down with him. Stand up against the wall. All your cries of up and down won't bring you one step closer to your goal, little man. You've always thought you could safeguard your freedom by standing people up against the wall. You'd be better to stand yourself up to a mirror. Down! Take it easy, little man. I don't mean to insult you. I'm only trying to show you why you've never been able to win freedom, or to preserve it for any length of time. Doesn't that interest you at all? Down! All right, I'll be brief. Let me tell you the little man in you behaves when you find yourself in a situation of freedom. Suppose you're a student at an institute dedicated to the sexual health of children and adolescents. You're enthusiastic about the brilliant idea. You want to participate in the liberation movement. The following happened in my institute. My students were bending over their microscopes, observing earth bions. You were sitting naked in the orgon accumulator. I called to you, asking you to come and take a look. Whereupon you came bouncing out of the accumulator, stark naked, exposing your nudity to the women and young girls. I reprimanded you, but you didn't understand, and I failed to understand why you didn't understand. Later, when we talked it over at length, you admitted that this had been your idea of the freedom you would find at an institute dedicated to the sexual health of children and all of mankind. With my help, you soon found out that you had behaved indecently because you despised the institute and its underlying idea. Have I made myself clear? Nothing to say? Then I'll go on. Another example of how you fritter away your freedom. You know, and I know, everybody knows, that you're perpetually sex-starved. That you mentally feel up every member of the opposite sex who comes your way, that you and your friends are constantly telling dirty stories about sex. In short, that you have a sordid, pornographic imagination. One night I heard you marching through the streets, howling in chorus, "We want women, we want women." Worried about you, I organized clubs, where I hoped you would learn to understand the wretchedness of your life and to surmount it. You and your friends flocked to these clubs. Why, little man? I thought it was because of a sincere interest in improving your lives. I was slow to discover the real reason. You regarded the clubs as a new kind of brothel, where girls could be had free of charge. When that became clear to me, I disbanded the clubs. Not because I thought it was wrong to meet a girl at a club, but because you behaved like a rutting pig. So the clubs were discontinued, and once again you remained in the muck. You wish to say something now? The proletariat has been corrupted by the bourgeoisie. The leaders of the world proletariat will know what to do. They'll clean up the stable with an iron hand, and anyway the sexual problem of the proletariat will solve itself. I know exactly what you mean, little man. In the workers' fatherland, they let the sexual problem solve itself. The results could be seen in Berlin when, night after night, the proletarian soldiers raped every woman they could get their hands on. Be still, you know it's true. Your champions of revolutionary honour, your soldiers of proletarian freedom, have disgraced you for centuries to come. You say that could only have happened in war. All right, I'll tell you another true story. A coming leader who hadn't yet made it was as enthusiastic about sex economy as he was about the dictatorship of the proletariat. He came to me and said, "You're wonderful. Karl Marx taught people how to be economically free, and you taught them how to be sexually free. You said to them, go forth and fuck. Your mind perverts every idea. In your life, my loving embrace becomes an act of pornography. You don't know what I'm talking about, little man. That's why you keep sinking back into the swamp. Little woman, if without any particular vocation you drifted into teaching, merely because you had no children of your own, you're doing unconscionable harm. You're supposed to be bringing up children. The rearing of children, if taken seriously, implies the correct handling of their sexuality. In order to handle a child's sexuality correctly, one must know from one's own experience what love is. But you're built like a tub. You're awkward and physically repulsive. That alone is enough to give you a bitter, deep-seated hatred for every attractive living body. Naturally, I don't blame you for being built like a tub, or for never having experienced love. No healthy man could have loved you, or for failing to understand love and children. But I do blame you for making a virtue of your affliction, of your wrecked tub-like body, of your lack of beauty and grace, and your incapacity for love, and for stifling love in children. That you, ugly little woman, is a crime. Your existence is harmful because you turn healthy children against their healthy fathers, because you treat healthy childlike love as a symptom of disease, because, ugly little woman, not content with looking like a tub, you think and teach like a tub, because instead of withdrawing modesty into a quiet corner of life, you do your best to imprint all life with your ugliness, your tub-like ungainliness, your hypocrisy, and with the bitter hatred that you hide behind your phony smile.